Welcome to a new episode of presentation on human resource management. I'm Bandula Pereira.
I'm Shanaka Dialvis.
I'm Lalindra Fernando.
I'm Saman Sudhir.
I'm Chaturadi Kumble.
So we formed the group 1 of the Oman PIM MBA batch. Now, in our last episode, we discussed about the organization behavior. In organization behavior, we discussed that an organization itself cannot behave, and the employees within an organization reflects the overall behavior of the organization. So this is what we learned. So it was very clear that the human resources of an organization makes a big change, and that they are the face of any organization. So with that in mind, our presentation today is going to be more focused on the human resource perspective. If we deep dive into the human resource aspects, as Professor Dharmasiri has explained, the concept called the 7 G's framework that drives the overall human resource process in an organization. Now, in our presentation today, we'll be focusing on one element of this 7 G's framework, which is GET. That's our whole objectives. We'll be focusing on the element GET in this framework, and we will be taking through you around various aspects around this concept GET.
Yes.
Now, for that we have selected an organization established in Oman, which is called the Oman Construction Company LLC, known as TOCO, a very experienced, very old company in Oman, established back in 1965, and the company is involved in construction works around oil and gas field. It's a very a reputed company in Oman. It has been there for quite some time and have got involved in many very sort of major projects in Oman. So we have analyzed the operations around the HR function in TOCO, and we have listed here in this table around 16 types of processes or practices that the HR in TOCO exercise in their day-to-day operations, out of which our focus will be today on the number 6 in the list, which is recruitment of staff, which has a direct link, or which is the GET, which is the main topic of our discussion today. Now, if you get into the theory part, now GET is all about hiring the right person to the right position. That's the whole concept of GET. So as explained by Professor Dharmasiri in his book that he released recently, GET is all about recruitment, selection and placement in an organization. So our discussion today will evolve around the element of GET within TOCO. So with that, Shanaka, do you mind taking us through the next steps?
Yes, now within the GET, the main process, we will look at the main process here of recruitment as well as the selection process. So recruitment, the first part is recruitment, and then we move on to the selection process. First, we start with employment planning as well as forecasting. So that's the first part of the recruitment process. First step on the recruitment process. Then we move on to building of a pool of candidates. So that is the second step of recruitment. So that ends the recruitment. So as soon as recruitment ends, the process of selection starts. So in the process of selections, we run through a set of hurdles or a set of filters where we screen the applicants so that we reach to the final applicants that we want selected. So that will include the applicant form filling or the applicant profile capturing, and then you will have a scientific selection process where you will use scientific tools to select the candidates, and then you will move on to the supervisors and the other interviews and the final selection process. So our colleagues here, you will go through each and every part of that. So Lalindra, could you take us through the employment and planning and the forecasting part of that?
Yeah, of course, dear Shanaka. TOCO being a large company and a huge company with a lot of manpower, it's a day-to-day practice that the requests are coming from the managers and the project and their department heads requesting for replacements as well as for new hires. So it's the HR has to be proactive, and they have to be readily take that challenge. But HR has given clear instructions, and the policies are very clear that they have to give 2 months in advance for any replacement, or in fact for new recruitments. So once the forms or the request forms come to HR department, the HR manager involves and they examines all the forms and what are the requirements and what are the things that they need to go through and what are the important things that they need to look at. And upon going through all that and after analyzing, then we move on to the next step. So someone will take us through the next step.
Yeah. Now the next step is the second step of this building the candidate pool of this process. And what the talker does is when they receive the job description from these department heads and projects, they first try to get the internally resource, to try to find out the resource through the existing projects. If they find that near ending projects which the free up resource, so they try to allocate. If they don't find, then they go into the their candidate internal database that they maintain, and then from there they specifically give priority to Omani nationals if the job demands for a long-term engagement, and then we need as a regulation they need to make sure that 30% of the Omani nationals to be recruited. So they try to find this particular job description from the database. If they don't find adequate the candidates from that, then they go for the local or a foreign agency and place the advertisement through these and allow these agencies to find the right resumes or CVs for to the pool. And once they collected all this, the pool finalized, then it goes through the filling up application, and which Chatura will take us through in that.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, and in this as a process for a company to see the efficiency of this hiring, normally the industry standard, they use that recruiting yield pyramid, so that they can find out how efficiency the hiring process is. So with that, I think Chatura can explain us how the next process of the step of this process.
Someone explained, when the candidate pool developed, that mostly the major player in this process, the assistant manager special project. He is the person who's trying to identify these candidates. That they have hundreds of CVs in their pool, that he has to check, is this candidate still available to join or still available to interview. Now that is like a pre-interview process that he has to follow up. He has to contact them through email or call them or through that contacts. He has to check with the agencies, still this candidate available. If available, that he has to do the lot of process before the interviews. That he will second step, it is like shortlisting the pool candidates for the specific job, and after that he will process that all the application to the interview process. That interview will be called based on that assistant manager special projects approval. That he will give all the shortlisted candidates database to the calling for the interview. I think next process Lalindra can explain further the process.
Yeah, thank you, Chatura.
The further screening of this.
Of course, yes. Now we need to look at the hiring success, all based on the hiring the correct person,
Yes.
and that plays a big part in it. So we all know the triple fits. So what are the triple fits? Task, talent fit, person, position fit, and individual and institution fit. So does TOCO follow all these three steps? That is very important to critically analyze their steps and the way that they are handling these triple fits. So as far as we are concerned, the study that we have gone through, we found out, yes, task, talent, fit, yes, they are mainly focused on task, talent, fit, as well as the person and position fit. But there's a bit of lack in individual and institution fit. TOCO being a large company with 14 nationalities, it's a social and cultural factor is very important. But now we can see that in the triple fit, that the individual and the institution fit, which is mainly the social and the cultural part, it's not given that prominence, even though that they have so many nationalities gel together, which they need to gel together and to perform the job. But their focus of task, talent fit and the person positioning fit is mainly focused, and I think they are doing really well, and that emphasized through our process. Chanaka, I think over to you. You can just take us through it.
As Lalindra explained, it's very important to select the right candidate. So if we make a mistake here, then we will have to either live with that candidate for the period, or that candidate could make a big difference, or he could be a burden on the company. So when we hire, we generally, what we have learned is that we need to hire for attitude. We hire for attitude and then we train for aptitude. So we have to look at the attitude factor, the right candidate with right behaviors, right fit, as Lalindra said, to the company has to be recruited. So in that, we have to see whether TOCO follows this process. What we have seen is TOCO does not go into that deep into looking at the attitude or the behavioral aspects of a candidate, because TOCO being a company which is quite project driven, so they are quite into construction and project driven, so they look at short term projects and short term employment. So these candidates, they look at the right skill set, but not at the broader attitudes and the behavioral part of a candidate. So I think that's a very important part which is lacking, which we think that TOCO should consider and improve and bring into their process as a best practice.
Yes.
So can we look at the next step, Chatura, with this?
Yeah, in that interview process, like Shanaga explained, they are mainly focused on the talent. That if they can perform this job well, that cultural fit is not there, but still they want these people to recruit. When the interview is happening, that project heads and the HR manager, whole team, they are concerning about if this person can perform this job. That is the main thing they are looking for, and they recruit. And also that we have found the uniqueness on this process. Sometimes they are doing subcontracting job for the oil field clients. That time, the client request TOCO to give the right candidate for them. At that time, they filter through the client requirement. That interview processing, selection processing happens according to the client requirement. If client asks, I need a Turkish welder, that they have to give Turkish welder only. They can't give an Indian welder. And at that time, they have to select that candidate. And also when they are recruiting Omani nationals, they are looking for the government that government aspect. The government will give, that Ministry of Manpower, they give, you have to recruit these people, you have to take these people into your company. That time they have no choice, they have to hire them. But when hiring happens, they have to do some process, go through the medical interviews and the visa process. There are a lot of local authorities involved in this type of process. Once they have completed the process, they will call the candidates to join to the company. When they join, I think Bandula can explain what is the process after that.
I want to highlight one thing. In case of they don't find the right talent from these Omani nationals, what they do, they will send them to specific institution to train them
Yeah.
once they hire.
All right.
So yeah.
So they're quite flexible in it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. So I think once we pass all these steps, now the final and the most important step is onboarding the new recruit. Now this is called induction in HRM. Now why induction is important? Now what we have seen in Toko, the HR taking induction really seriously, which is a good thing. And that indicates that Toko HR is slightly moving towards SHRM. That's a modern way of thinking. Now, why induction is important? Now, a properly inducted staff will be loyal to the institution, will be in the institution for quite some time, and there will be low turnover in staff. So overall, it will benefit to the organization as well as the employee to understand his role, to blend with the people, to blend with the organization culture, to understand the policies and processes of the organization, and to be a part of the team and to live the brand of Toko. So in that sense, I personally believe that Toko HR has done a great job to ensure that the recruits are inducted properly.
Yeah.
We have also
there is a part of health and safety also. These people going to work in oil rigs. There are some local petroleum development rules and regulations are there to train them before joining the petroleum sites. That it is a part of induction process to educate them on the health and safety process also.
Absolutely. So I have also reviewed the induction processes or the contents of the induction program in Toko, and we are listed around the key 10 areas which Toko focuses on, mainly about the organization history, services, processes, and critical areas of the job, alignment to the organization goals. Then another key one is, as you said, the job description, the health and safety procedures, the grievance procedures, the staff entitlement, leave entitlement, and all these things are comprehensively covered in Toko's induction program. So I think with this, overall, we see some positivity in the whole recruitment process within the Toko operation. But there are some improvements as well. But overall, I think we could be happy the way Toko HR operates. So I think with that, we come to the end of our brief presentation. I hope you have understood something around the HR operation around the Toko company. And thank you very much for spending time with us.